day everyone. I am Kcs Mae B Hernando from Bsed-Math 1A. In this video, I will discuss our NSTP1 final examination, which is the goal is to inculcate and instill the importance of disaster preparedness in our community. But first, what is disaster preparedness? Disaster preparedness refers to the preventive measures taken to reduce the severity of a disaster's effects. The goal of disaster preparedness is to lessen the impact of disasters on vulnerable populations, to ready an organization for an influx of activity, and to design a coordinated plan that reduces the waste of resources, time, and efforts. Disaster preparedness has the potential to save the maximum number of lives and property during a disaster, and it aims to return the affected populations to normalcy as quickly as possible. The identified possible disasters that occur in a community are earthquake, landslide, and flood. First is earthquake. It's also known as quake, tremor, or temblor. It is a sudden and violent shaking of the ground, sometimes causing great destruction as a result of movements within the earth crust or volcanic actions. The best guidance or the best to do if earthquake occur is to drop, cover, and hold. If you feel an earthquake, drop your hands and knees and crawl or move to cover underneath a sturdy piece of furniture or under the table that is away from shelves and other things that could fall. Hold on to the shelter to keep it protecting you, especially over your head and neck. It is important not to start evacuating until after the shaking has stopped, because the vast majority of injuries in an earthquake happen when people try to run outside or being panicked during the shaking and get hit by debris or fall down. Therefore, be calm and just stay away from the object or the falling debris. The second is the landslide. It is a downhill movement of earth and debris. This disaster happens when a weather event like heavy rain or an earthquake loosens up soil and rock on a hillside. The loosened earth may move quickly or slowly and can destroy everything in its path. What to do before, during, and after a landslide? Before a landslide, first, know your areas to risk for landslides. Second is prepare a landslide disaster plan. You should prepare an emergency preparedness kit such as first aid kit, flashlights and batteries, non-perishable foods, and water. During a landslide, first know the warning signs and evacuate immediately. After a landslide, wait for the all clear, reclaim the land, and know where to get emergency care when you need it. The third disaster is the flood. Floods are the most frequent type of natural disaster and occur when an overflow of water submerges land that is usually dry. Floods are often caused by heavy rainfall, rapid snowmelt, or a storm surge from tropical cyclone or tsunami in coastal areas. What to do before, during, and after a flood? Before a flood, build an emergency kit and make a family communications plan. Avoid building in a floodplain unless you elevate and reinforce your home. Elevate the furnace, water heater, and electric panel in your home if you live in an area that has a high flood risk. Consider installing check valves to prevent flood water from backing up into the drains of your home. During a flood, listen to the radio or television for information. Be aware that flash flooding occurs. If there is any possibility of a flash flood, move immediately to higher ground. Be aware of stream, drainage channels, canyons, and other areas known to flood suddenly. Flash floods can occur in these areas with or without typical warnings such as rain clouds or heavy rain. And turn off your electricity. After a flood, first, avoid moving water. Stay away from damaged areas unless your assistance has been specifically requested by police or relief organizations. Play it safe. Additional flood or flash flooding can occur. Listen for local warnings and information. Return home only when authorities indicate it is safe. Stay on firm ground. Stay out of any building if it is surrounded by flood water. The importance of disaster preparedness. Disaster preparedness is important because being prepared can reduce fear, anxiety, and losses that accompany disasters. Communities, families, and individuals should know what to do in the event of a fire and where to seek shelter during a powerful storm. They should be ready to evacuate their homes and take refuge in public shelters and know how to care for their basic medical needs. Community-based preparedness and planning allow us to manage the potential hazards following a disaster event. Individually, we can prepare our homes and families to get through those critical times. Communities can also plan to work together to reduce injury, death, and property damage. Community preparedness will improve the ability of individuals and groups to reduce the effects of the hazard impact and manage their resources until assistance is available. 5 steps of disaster preparedness or emergency management are prevention, mitigation, preparedness, response, and recovery. First is the prevention. Prevention actions taken to avoid an incident, stopping an incident from occurring, deterrence operations, and surveillance. Mitigation refers to measures that prevent an emergency, reduce the chance of an emergency happening, or reduce the damaging effects of unavoidable emergencies. Typical mitigation measures include establishing building codes and zoning requirements, installing shutters, and constructing barriers such as levees. Preparedness activities increase a community's ability to respond when a disaster occurs. Typical preparedness measures include developing mutual aid agreements and memorandums of understanding, training for both response personnel and concerned citizens, conducting disaster exercises to reinforce training and test capabilities, and presenting of hazards education campaigns. The fourth is response. Actions carried out immediately before, during, and after a hazard impact, which are aimed at saving lives, reducing economic losses, and alleviating suffering. Response actions may include activating the Emergency Operations Center, evacuating threatened populations, opening shelters, and providing mass care, emergency rescue and medical care, firefighting, and urban search and rescue. Recovery actions taken to return a community to normal or near normal conditions, including the restoration of basic services and the repair of physical, social, and economic damages. Typical recovery actions include debris cleanup, financial assistance to individuals and governments, rebuilding of roads and bridges and key facilities, and sustained mass care for displaced human and animal populations. That's all. Thank you.